What's up, y'all? Before we get into it today, I am really excited about this interview. Unfortunately, I screwed up the settings on my recording software and I accidentally switched the source for my microphone, so my audio sounds terrible. So I just want to apologize to everybody out there, especially Andrew, for screwing up what was an otherwise incredibly amazing interview. I tried to fix it as best as I could, but unfortunately, AI just isn't there yet. So I hope my crappy mic isn't too much for you today, and I hope you can get something out of this amazing interview because I think it's a really important conversation. I will definitely make sure to check this from now on before pressing record. I really hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So let's get into it.
Ready, dude?
What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design. I'm Jeremy. If you're new here, welcome to the show. I'm super stoked to have you. And if you haven't done it already, please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are a regular here and you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would really appreciate leaving a 5-star review. That'll help me out way more than you can imagine. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, and Megan for their support. And if you want to join Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, and Megan and help keep the show independent and ad-free, you can become a patron for as little as $3 a month. And if you do that, you'll get some sweet perks for your support. And of course, if you think the show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. I've got a guest today I'm really excited to talk about. We met in the comments thread. I keep telling people this about how amazing LinkedIn is, but it's not amazing because of the posts. It's amazing because of the comments thread. I love it. We met randomly. Yeah. I don't even remember what the post was about, but I remember there was some random thing. I said something about, I think UX education. You're like, oh, dude, let's chat. So then we set up a call and I was like, oh, this guy's great. I want to have him on the show. Andrew's the Chief Experience Officer at Midwestern, a rapidly growing digital product embedded role provider that's been recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the top 5,000 privately held companies and an Inc. Best Places to Work recipient. He has over a decade of experience working in the digital and brand spaces in the agency world, and he later founded and sold several tech companies before becoming a consultant. And after joining Midwestern as the VP of Strategy and Experience, and quickly moved into that CXO role. He's been part of the company's rapid growth ever since. Andrew's passionate about designing products and growing designers as well-rounded individuals. He's also a former Marine, a rock climber, a former MMA fighter, and a proud father of 6 kids. 6 kids, man. I don't know how you do it. I can barely do it with 2. Andrew, welcome to the show, man.
I don't know, but all that made me feel really old, dude.
Get out of here. So that bio you had, I think you said you had like 4 people write it. You're like 4 paragraphs long. I said, let's see what ChatGPT can do. This is me. I've had ChatGPT write my bios for me almost every episode.
That sounded
amazing,
great, dude.
That was awesome. You're welcome to use it. I'll copy and paste. I'll send it to you.
I'm going to steal it.
Go for it.
Is that royalty free?
Yeah, no, it's all right. You just give me a little shout out every time. He's like, brought to you by Jeremy and Chat. Check them out behind there. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, man, cool. So welcome to the show. I'm super stoked to have you on. We had an awesome chat a couple of weeks back, talked about all kinds of stuff. I don't even remember half the crap we talked about, to be honest. But we had a really good conversation. One of the things that struck me, and I want to hear all about you. We did a little bio, but I want to have you talk about yourself and how you got here. You have such a fascinating journey from the Marines into the creative industry. And it's funny because my dad, we talked about this, my dad was a Marine. So he was a sergeant in Vietnam. Yeah. And the opposite of a creative person is like the complete opposite. And I guess that was my bias. That was the only frame of reference I really had for Marines. When I hear that there's a Marine in the creative industry, it's like, I'm like, whoa, that blows my mind a little bit. I'd love to find out about your backstory because you've got a really interesting origin story. Tell us all about it, man. How'd you get into this flow?
Yeah, dude, that's funny. There's not a lot. I run into several folks on LinkedIn. I say several, not very many. There's a few of us out there that are creatives that are, well, I don't want to say former Marine, right? Once a Marine, always a Marine. But so it's funny. There's just a few of us out there. I was in Okinawa, Japan, dude, and I was watching a movie, What Women Want. Do you remember that movie? Yeah. Mel Gibson.
Yep. He could read their minds, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I kind of, ignorance is bliss, I think.
I mean, I can guess what my wife's thinking, right? Like, you're kind of being dumb. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it all depends how she looks at
we
me.
know the looks at this point, right? So, like,
That's right.
it's not gonna hurt my feelings. But yeah, so What Women Want, Mel Gibson, he's in this penthouse. The whole movie's, it wasn't really the movie, that it was the context of his job, his role, what he did for a job, right? First of all, he was in a penthouse. I'm from Southwest Missouri, little town called Carthage. The closest thing we have a penthouse is like the top of the courthouse. You could go up into that, right? The little bell tower. That's probably the highest you're getting in Carthage. So when I see a penthouse, New York City, and this guy's just spitting creative, right? Just spitting creative. And I always drew. I was an artist as a kid. It was always been my way to escape, just creative and in general. But as a kid, of course, I didn't know graphic design or computers or any of those things. My mom got me onto charcoal pencils and paper and watercolor and sculpting and all of these types of things. And so that was I knew that was creative. And so I kind of knew and had experienced that version, but never had seen the corporate version of creativity. That is marketing, the ad execs, the ad world. There's been movies about this world, right? I mean, there's a reason why young men are enamored and women are enamored about the ad agency world. I mean, it's freaking sexy. It is an awesome place to be for a little while, right?
For a little while, yeah.
You burn the candle at both ends long enough, you're ready to take that experience and move on. However, back to my story. Sorry. You remember this about me. You remember it. So I go into What Women Want, watch the movie. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. So I get out of the Marine Corps, I don't know, a couple years later. I still want to do that. I looked into just a little bit. I asked the lady at Missouri Southern, little plug, Missouri Southern University right here in good old Joplin, Missouri. I asked the career recruiter there, or whatever they call them, career counselor. Is it career counselor?
Something like that. Yeah. I don't know where they were.
I don't know how much counseling she really did, because she was just like, yeah, I don't know. Because I asked her asked her if she knew what that movie was, like what job that was. I'm thinking it's marketing, whatever. She's like, yeah, sounds like marketing and design. You're in. So I did that for a couple of years and got out.
And how'd you end up in software specifically? I mean, you're advertising. It's funny because I used to do advertising as well, actually, for a while. And it does seem like a logical progression, right? You're doing websites, those websites turn into more full-featured apps, the apps turn into mobile apps and whatever. How did that transition for you work, getting into software?
Yeah, man. I think that it was just organic. I think I landed pretty heavy on I wanted to go into the digital space early in my career. I remember sitting in school looking through the first Photoshop and some of the first Photoshop books and some of that kind of stuff. I mean, back in the day, right? That's how we learned. Yeah. We learned out of books. I think one of you and I talking about our trips to Books A Million.
Yeah, and get the CDs, man. You get the tutorials on the back of a CD, the CDs on the back of the magazines. Yeah.
Oh, man, dude.
Brady's kid. I think we were talking about this before. It was a wild time to grow. It's weird, man, because like for us, we didn't grow up with all the stuff that kids do today, the tablets or the phones and the streaming. Like it's funny, just like random anecdote. Like my kid, they're 6 and 7 today. Actually, it's birthday, 7 and 5, and they have streaming. They no concept of a commercial. And when we'll go to my in-laws or something, and they have regular TV and they're watching me, can we skip this? I'm like, no, you can't skip this. This is it, man. You gotta watch it. Watch the whole 2 minutes worth of this crap. I'm sorry. I had to deal with it. Now you got to deal with it. We'll skip it when we get home. But they don't have any, which is actually kind of nice because they don't get to see all the toy commercials, which is kind of nice.
That's true. True. That's true. Anyway. Or those cereal commercials with the toys in them.
Oh,
remember
that's
when
right.
we were kids?
Yes,
we were
man.
like, wait, what's Kix about to put out? They're about to put out some micro machines. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm gonna get Yeah, they had it right back in the day.
And then you never ate the actual cereal. Oh man. So yeah, and this is this transition from military to office life. I know in general.
Yeah.
I actually work at GE and we do a lot of veteran outreach, and we have a lot of veterans that will join. Yeah, it makes sense there because we're building jet engines, and a lot of them are former mechanics and former people who worked in the Air Force and things like that. But I'm just curious, this like office life versus military life, it's got to be a unique, there's a lot of challenges or a lot of unique things that are totally different from one versus the other. But then I'm sure there are things that are similar. What is that like going from military, sitting behind a computer all day and or Zoom meetings or whatever? It's got to be different.
Gosh, it's a little different. It's a little different. It was so, I don't say so long ago, I'm 43, like you said, born in 79, not quite an 80s baby, but yeah, it is, it's a different it's a weird transition, and I'll be honest, I am about my experiences, after getting out. I dealt with alcoholism to deal with PTSD. I dealt with just especially when you go into situations where you're in combat zones, it's just an elevated way to live your life in those short spurts that's just kind of crazy, right? And you could go, all kinds of people have all kinds of stories, and it affects people different ways. For me, I was able to compartmentalize a lot of the things that I saw and I went through, dealt with, whatever it was while I was in. I served with others that unfortunately did not have that same ability to kind of compartmentalize and forget. You don't ever forget, crazy things. It doesn't matter what you've done. And, you're not going to forget those crazy things, but, we can all as people compartmentalize, and some people just don't have the ability to do that. So I feel like I always felt bad for those dudes, that just mentally, it was just, it was going to be pretty rough. So for me mentally, I think it was more challenging coming out than it was like for me, it was like, even to this day, dude, like Matt Johnson, the CEO here of Midwestern, him and I, he's way younger. He's younger than you. I don't know how old he is. He's like 33 or 34, freaking CEO of this amazing company that we have right now. Really good sound dude, man, just solid. And I look to him for some of those early soft skill lessons I didn't get because I was in the Marine Corps, quite frankly. Even to this day, as a leader, as a C-level executive, there are moments where that Marine Corps Sergeant Rice, comes out just a little bit, and I have to guard myself away from that. I love people, so that helps me. Some people don't, some people have a hard time, with my abrasiveness sometimes. I'm a very AB, charge the hill, let's charge the hill, let's charge the hill. I set really high expectations. A lot of those things I learned in the Marine Corps. Some of them are just my own OCD issues that I have with design or whatever it is, right? Or ADHD, we'll call that out there. Everybody here will see that in this phone call too, right? And that's not a negative. I've learned to spin that to a positive, and folks can do that as well. So I think for me, coming out of the military and into the office environment, I don't think it was as abrupt as some. I think my experience serving at Red Lobster, like week 2 after coming out of the Marine Corps, and like I've got people telling me that their steaks are just like, man, that was a rough job to come into out of the Marine Corps. That was much more difficult than like surrounding myself with like-minded individuals that just want to go and tackle this mountain that is, the SaaS space. But I would say I definitely had to learn a lot of relearn a lot of the soft skills, not necessarily the technical skills, but a lot of those soft skills. Dude, I'm still learning.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things like I've always been curious about is software tends to be very flat, right? You've got a lot of people sort of not democratized necessarily, but it's not that top-down command and control type of organization you have in the military. And I'm curious, like, can you talk about that a little bit? That top-down command and control, do as I say, don't ask any questions. You have orders, follow them. Versus, I want your feedback. I want to know what we're doing right or wrong, and it's more flat. What is that like? And can you compare and contrast that a little bit? Because I'm kind of curious, what someone from the military thinks about that structure, or how is it hard to do? I'm curious. You mentioned the sergeant comes out a little bit. Maybe that's like what you're talking about, but what is that like?
Golly, that's a good question, bro. That's a great question. It is different, dude. It's different, man. You know, if I look at how I lead my house and how I choose to do that, whether we talk about spiritually or, you know, whatever it is, like how I choose to lead my house, what I'm learning actually as I get older is like I really need to do more of the same everywhere I'm at, right? And it tends to be more of the same as like I need to be softer. I need to have grace. I need to, you know, do all the things to make sure that I am speaking to individuals. You know, there's color code, there's all the personality tests. That's been wonders for me, honestly, because I'm very, hey, what are the facts? What's going on? Like, why is this person not doing this thing? Or why is this person, like, I keep telling this, like, I don't understand what's going on. And so there's patience involved, and there's some of those things that, you know, honestly, it's just like pour yourself into your weaknesses. And that's really what I've had to do. And I'm still doing. Again, I do that to this day. I mean, I think it comes down to whether somebody's coming out of the military or school or whatever and going into this thing, like the flat org is totally different. I'll get back to that real quick. But the flat org is different. It's not me barking orders saying this is getting done. Now, did I do that? Hell yeah, I did that, bro. Yeah, I did, and I screwed up real bad. I probably screwed up some designers, in fact. Like, honestly, like there's been times where I've realized those things about myself, you know, but as long as we, you know this, everybody knows this, as long as we're intentional and we're self-aware and we're really trying to fix ourselves every day, am I a better version of myself today than I was yesterday? It's that freaking simple. It is that simple. Am I treating everybody around me better today than I did yesterday? And for me, that is one of the challenges I've always had, right? Is like, I love people, but I also love myself too much. And I love my own opinion too much. And I love like, no, just do this because it's the way. Well, it could be a really good way, dude. But your point probably is a flat org is so much better. And that is something I've learned over time. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter if it's the intern that sat in with us for 6 weeks and we're in a brainstorm session where I've got the whole team and nobody's coming up with something, and out of the corner, intern says, whatever this magical thing is that pops out of their mouth. And we're like, okay, let's go. Right. So you've been a part of that. You know, I think humility goes a long way in this industry, and it's something I have to learn daily, bro.
Well, you know, the thing because I was never in the military, but, you know, growing up with a dad who was a sergeant in the Marines, you almost feel like you were sort of limited a little bit, right? You know, at least the boot camp part of it. And so, you know, when I see a lot of teams, I don't know, maybe this is just me and maybe this is my personality, but I'm on a lot of these flat teams, and my current team is much better than this. But in the past, I've worked with other teams, and I'm like, you goddamn whiny baby, like, shut up, get your work done. You know what I mean? And I feel like oftentimes, I don't know, maybe that's just my dad coming through, but, you know, there's times I feel like, you know, I don't know, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but there's times when the flat structure works really well. In the case, you know, you're brainstorming in a room. But then there's times when you just got to get your stuff done. There's times to execute. There's times to build and get that thing shipped. And there's, you know, we decided what we're going to do. We're not changing our mind again. It's time to move forward, or because we're never going to make that deadline if we don't, you know? And so it's interesting because I feel like having that experience with the top down, you've probably seen the value, because it's not that there's no value in top down. Obviously, there's a reason why the military is like that. But in a lot of these, I don't want to call them soft teams, you know, soft software teams, where people are just like, well, we want to have a say and blah, blah, blah. And I'm curious, like, how do you manage that? Because I'm sure sometimes you see like the value in just getting things done. But then, you know, like you said, there's also value in the flat things. But I don't know. I'm curious. Does that make sense? That's not really a question, but.
Oh, it does. Dude, it totally does, man. It does make sense. I think that it's a hard question, right? Because the right answer is, the politically right answer is I'm going to use my soft skills and my empathy and my grace. I'm going to kumbaya with the team, and every single day is going to be blissful, and everybody's going to agree, and we're going to work in a flat org, and it's going to be amazing. That doesn't happen all the time, right? And I think that's, that's where you're getting to. And I think that, dude, I'll say this. In the military, it's like, it is different. In life, it's different. Where do we lead? I think every leader has to come to this point. And whether we're talking about leader or somebody that is serving alongside with that leader in that team, everybody comes to a point where they realize, for me, I realized even after the Marine Corps, how important leading from the back actually is, and meaning that, like, yes, you can be a top-down org, and yes, I have a lot more seniority than 98% of the folks in this company, but that doesn't make me a better person. That didn't put me in front of them. That doesn't, like, as a person, I think I really try to ensure that people are seen, heard, and felt within an organization. And if the only way to do that is from the back so that you can see everything that's going on. So essentially, I'm going to lay out the plan, and it is going to be expectations mainly, right? But because I built that trust up, I hope, with my team from leading from the back, where they know that Andrew might get a little bit loud in a meeting when he's super passionate about something, but you know what? They know it's because I'm passionate about getting results for our clients and them getting results for their own growth. And not just their own growth here, but they understand that I give a crap about them outside of here. And I care about them as people. But I've got them on a career trajectory, right? I ask every one of them, sure, they're working for us right now, but everybody has dreams, everybody has aspirations. We had them. So I think if you're walking alongside your team and they feel seen, they feel heard, then they're going to feel led. And they don't need to feel led in an org chart. They just need to feel like the people they know are way above them in an org chart, treat them like they're part of their team. And I think that companies moving forward that find the most success in this industry, especially, right, because of these flat orgs that end up happening within product teams, right? There's a lot of egos that need to be left at the door. There's a lot of teaching that can be happening. We complain about, man, I'll stop because I could go into institutions that need to do a better job teaching and prepping the kids that
Please
come out.
Please do. If you've got an insight, share it. Go ahead. Don't let me stop you.
Well,
what are you gonna say? You're talking about colleges and stuff, universities or boot camps, or
yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the boot camps earlier. That was like kind of the big topic of our call a couple weeks ago.
Oh, was it?
But wait, what are your thoughts there? I'm curious. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Man. I think that, like, along the lines of what I was saying around, rallying around your troops, your team, and ensuring that they feel like they're part of the team, and they know they're part of the team, and they show up every day excited to work. We have those teams, and it's because we created a culture that's not for the sake of saying we have a culture in the tech space like everybody else. We have a culture that cares about people first. So if we truly have that, and we're talking about product companies and getting results, right? It doesn't matter what company we are. We could be the biggest, the smallest, it doesn't matter, right? We're not all rowing in the same direction. If we don't check egos at the door. But really, if those juniors coming in the intern in the corner can't say the thing because he doesn't know to say the thing because he hasn't learned the thing, then he's not going to say the thing. And right now there's a big issue, a really big issue with, like, there's a lot. I'm going to put a caveat. There is some really good schools out there. Okay. I've written on this before. There are really good schools out there. But I would say 95% of all school systems out there teaching anything related to our world, marketing, right? Marketing's involved, even business. Like we're holding a contest here locally with universities to match up the product teams because they're isolated. They don't even know their product teams. So we're holding a contest, joining different college engineers with designers to hopefully get them to understand, like, hey, in the real world, it's the teams that we're talking about, right? But if we're not educating them on how to start their job, right? We see it on LinkedIn, and God love them. I love them. I want them to all have jobs. I'd love to hire them. I want to. But at the same time, I got to have qualified individuals. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing a ton of qualified individuals. Now, there are some. We've interviewed them. Shoot, we've hired some straight out of boot camp. We got a kid here, Vegas. Vegas is amazing. That's his nickname because he's from Vegas. But Vegas is exactly who you think he is. Vegas is Vegas, dude. I mean, the guy just like he skydives all the time, and right now he's in Denmark doing something crazy. Who knows what he's doing over in Denmark?
He's having a good time.
hired right out of boot camp. So it's not that we don't agree. It's like, yeah, like send us all you have that are qualified, right? And I think that's a big issue within product teams right now. And that means that we all have to leave ego at the code check. I think that's even on our new website we just launched in messaging. It's like, we have to leave our ego with code check, like as leaders in a product company, because if we don't, they're not going to learn. They're not going to open themselves up to be vulnerable and say, I don't know these things, because everything's moving so fast, they can't catch up. And guess what? We eat them up, spit them out, eat them up, spit them out. How about we bring them on, grow them, and let them blossom into what they should. Right now, I think the problem is, as product companies, we don't spend enough time with the individuals we're getting who may be unqualified, right? Or we're not spending enough time vetting the qualified. I mean, it's the reason why Midwestern's blown up the way it has. We serve people, right? Not products. And everybody that does business with us is going to say the same thing. It's just a different model, man. It's just a different way of doing business, and I love it. It's going to be around for forever.
Well, I hope that's true for sure, man. You guys are doing some good stuff. One of the things that as you were talking, got my mind kind of thinking was, the way that the U.S. military works today is probably way different than it did 50, 60 years ago. When I talked about that top-down command and control, that's probably a little bit of a misnomer. I mean, if you think about, non-commissioned officers, NCOs, they're given quite a bit of ability to do what they think they need to do in that moment. And they're not waiting for generals to say, go move to the left, go 100 yards here. And I'm thinking about like the war in Ukraine, for instance. Like, we've kind of trained the Ukrainian military to be more on the ground. They make decisions. And then you look at Russia, and they're waiting around for the general in the corner office somewhere to tell them to go, pick their nose or wipe their ass. And of course they're losing. And, I think about that. And, I mentioned top down. It's not really top down. It's the people, certainly there's a level of do as I say, you have orders, but there's also a level of figuring out what you need to do in that moment. And you're given some sense of autonomy to make the right decision for your team. Right. So maybe it's not, it's not, maybe there's not as much, maybe it's not so dissimilar after all. I don't know. What were your thoughts about that?
Dude, that's a great point, man. I never thought of it that way. I will say, yeah, there's a lot of autonomy given, but that trust is built, right? And it's like 5 Dysfunctions as a Team. There's a reason it's one of the best business books ever written. First rule, trust. You have to have trust in every relationship to go any further. It's just human nature. And so, yeah, I agree. Dude, that's such a great point. Because once you have that trust, right? I'm not the guys out there, dude. I watch these podcasts, man. I got some heroes out there, some of the, I'm not gonna name any names, but there's really, really amazing vets out there. They're doing some freaking awesome podcasts, and I listen to all those guys. I am not that guy. I'm just saying that, but I was in the military. I saw combat. I saw those things. And I'm kind of the regular Joe guy that comes out of the Marine Corps and just wants to have a good life and make a good life for his family. And so I will say that a lot of those guys, man, had even way more autonomy than I ever had, right? But in the same regard, yeah, sure, I had tons of autonomy because that trust was developed by my platoon sergeant, or, all the way up to company leaders to get put in charge of, a squad or a platoon or whatever it is, right? So there is autonomy. I was never in charge of a platoon. I was an E5, right? So I don't ever want to pretend that I was something I wasn't, but what I did learn in the Marine Corps was invaluable to me. Honor, courage, and commitment. Those 3 words still to this day are like part of my life. That's what I learned in the Marine Corps. And it's funny, like they drill it in your head in boot camp there's just some of those things that you learn that you just carry throughout your life, the situations that you were in and all those things. So yeah, you develop that trust. I think there's a lot of that to it. And there's a ton of, now that I'm looking at it that way too, yeah, there is actually some pretty good crossover from that perspective. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something too. You have expectations, and you set expectations. Yeah. You let your team figure out how to do it. I feel like it's very similar to the way at least our modern military tends to work, where you've got the level higher up. They set an expectation. We're going to achieve this goal. Mm-hmm. How you figure that out, how you do that on the ground, whatever makes sense for you, do it. But that's the expectation. Yeah. You're going to do it by this time or this day, whatever. You're going to have this same name. And I think that's sort of the other thing too. One of the things I sort of, I don't know, envy is maybe the wrong word, but in the military, I've seen so many people in software teams and just complain. They complain. And, thinking about advertising too, you mentioned advertising. I used to work in advertising, and it is a stressful, miserable job. You mentioned how sexy it is, but for a short amount of time, right? Yeah. You get burnt out really quick. And I have so many of these people that I've worked with in the past that are coming out of school and their first job ever is at this giant corporation with fat benefits, unlimited PTO, barely any deadlines. The deadline might be 6 months off, and they're complaining. And I'm like, shut up. You have no idea how good you have it. And I imagine like in the military, it's kind of one of those things too. Like, you don't just complain. You might bring up an idea, you have an idea, but you're not going to complain, And I feel like that's sort of one of those things, like I imagine you might miss coming from the military is just, I don't know, the less whiny babies maybe. So I don't know. You might not have any people like that in your team, but anyway, I've experienced that in the past.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. I think one thing the military also gave me the ability to do at the same time. I think if you allow yourself to harness the ability to learn from your experiences while you were in the Marines and really reflect on what those were, right? Or military in general. We're talking about the Marine Corps, but military in general, right? I think, some individuals have a really easy ability to self-reflect. Some individuals don't have. I think the Marine Corps does help you, kind of push you to learn how to self-reflect. The consequences for negative outcomes in the Marine Corps are much graver than that in product, obviously. So I think it just instills several things. So I have ADHD. It is what it is. At this point, I've learned to freaking deal with it. But, I can get scattered in the Marines. In the very beginning, it was tough. It was really tough for me. I didn't even really, it was one of those things I heard I had ADHD, but my parents were like, yeah, you don't have ADHD. So I never really got, it was back in the day when, you didn't want your kid to be medicated or have ADHD, honestly. It's really what it was, right? Yeah. He was like, oh, my kid's the crazy kid in class. Well, no, he actually is. Like, whatever.
Not after we give him those meds. Man, go off topic for a second. I think we talked about this when we first talked a month or so ago. But yeah, I had got diagnosed with ADD. Well, it was ADD at the time. Now it's ADHD. But I had ADD back in the day. And I had an uncle who was a counselor. And he was like, don't give this kid drugs, just like give him something to do, so I started playing drums and stuff, which was great. I had another kid in my class, this dude Andrew. The morning he'd be like literally just out of his mind, like just like you said, he'd be running around the class, and this was Catholic school, so like you don't run around the classroom in a Catholic school. This isn't no Montessori or anything, right? And he's like running around.
You're getting a ruler in your face.
Yeah, and they would just give him his meds, and he'd be just like just out, dude, just sit in a chair, zombie, straight ahead, And I just thank God my parents didn't give me the drugs, because I don't know where I might be a totally different person today, to be honest. If I was like,
I agree,
on this, and now I know they changed the dosing, so they don't give you as much now and stuff. But Anyway, back in the day, it was just like, oh, here's this like 8 pills, whatever a day, whatever it was. Anyway.
You're so right, though. You're right on that, dude. Like, I think had my parents giving me medication, I wouldn't have had to deal with, like, I had to learn to cope with it. Like, whether it's being made fun of because you can't keep your attention, or whether it's, because that, I mean, kids are freaking mean. They're
awful.
mean
Kids
assholes,
are terrible,
right? Like, they're just
you got
mean.
6 of them. You should know about. You know about that. I got 6.
I got 6, dude. They can be mean. Now, we've been pretty lucky. We got one little mean-spirited one, but she's growing out of it. So, but yeah, dude, what were we just talking about?
We were talking. So that was my fault. I did the ADD thing, and I went off on a tangent.
Dude, you were so good. You might not have had to cut anything, bro. Yeah,
I'm not cutting this. I'm leaving it in, bro. This is staying in there, dude.
Yeah, it don't matter. Keep it in there, baby.
I'm keeping it in there.
It's just showing that ADHD.
Anyway, all right. I got another question. What was reset? All right. So one of the things I'm curious about, coming from the military, again, I've never been to boot camp. My dad used to tell me though all the time about boot camp, Marine boot camp specifically. But again, this was late 60s, so who knows if it's the same when you went through it. But one of the things they would do, they would tear you down to just build you back up to the soldier they wanted you to be. And you almost lost your personality. They wanted you to conform. And one of the interesting things about being a creative is we really just, treasure this uniqueness. Everyone's unique. Everyone's different perspective. But I'm curious, what was that like? Was that something you had to relearn, like find your own unique voice and creative kind of voice again?
Yeah, no, I think they do a lot. I think they still do the tear down, build up. It's just done differently. Mothers of America have voiced their opinions, and it has become a little bit more docile. I've heard stories. I mean, even the drill instructors from when I was in, or you hear some of the stories of some of the guys that we probably both follow. And it's crazy. And it was a lot crazier back then. You can only do certain things, the hazing stuff. I mean, some of those things did happen back in the day. And then by the time I was in, the worst they could do is scream at you in your face, and that was but mentally, dude, I'm going to say, and I would venture to say most military folks, definitely Marines, are going to say that it's more of a mental game than the physical happens. It comes, even if you go in a little overweight or too little like me. I was 125 pounds. I was I think they were called rat rations or something. I had to get extra rations. I gained 15 pounds of muscle.
That's so funny.
I was so little, they had to just keep basically spoon feed me. It's they're you need to grow and you need to not grow. And so they had those folks, and then it was so I think that they play a lot of mind games out. And I don't even call them mind games because they're not really, they are. Some of them are mind games. But it is all to, we're all forged in fire. There's all kinds of sayings that you can say. But we do, in the military that if repetition. And if there are consequences to negative results, you are going to be punished in some way, some shape or form, right? And I think that's the accountability piece of that is a little bit of what's frustrating that's not missing, honestly, in product. But you can build that your own. And you asked, have you had to change your design or your methods or whatever? I'd say I haven't changed anything really. Design, I just continued. I'd probably be passionate about design till the day I die because I'm passionate about art. I love art. I still do art today. So I think I'll always be passionate about that. But when it comes to I'd say leadership is really the thing that I look at. And there's so many contrasting differences that I have had to put into place, everything from how I guard what I say to different personality types to how I make sure that because of my ADHD or some of my communication that I can struggle with some communication sometimes. So I want to make sure I get those things out in writing to folks. There's a lot of little things that I've had to do, whether it's Marines or other reasons that I've had to do personally to try to become, and I'm not there, try to become a better leader. But I do think that it is the accountability piece that becomes challenging, especially when, because it's true, dude. And most of the folks that I deal with haven't dealt with close to what I've dealt with in my life. And I'm just being open and honest. That's just facts, right? And so in the beginning, when I got them, it was tough for me, right? It was like, what do you mean? Like, I would even do that. Like, what do you mean? What are you done? Like, and I mean, I got a dude that works for me now, Oscar Gonzalez. He worked for me way back in the day when I owned an agency in this town before I sold it. I rehired Oscar, and I apologized to him on his first day, dude, because I was like, bro, I know I was hard. I know it was hard. He's good now, though. Hey, oars and fire, baby. But it works, but doesn't need to work. You know, there's other ways to accomplish the same thing, but accountability has to be there. And to me, it was like things that we've done to put in, like the growth plan. If I know their career trajectory, they know that I can help them with that, and I care. If I know where they're at all times and I'm giving them constructive feedback, we think that sounds simple, and we all have reviews and check-ins and all that, but is it intentionally being done to serve the employee, not the company? Maybe it's not. I don't know. So we do it a little bit different. And I've done a few things like that. There's probably a ton more that I've done to really just try to take them as much of that away from my leadership and insert as much empathy and grace as I possibly can.
So I'm curious, like for somebody coming out of the military that's interested in getting into a creative industry, do you have any advice on how to find your voice again, find your unique perspective?
Yeah, reach out. Like literally, I tell military and Marines all the time. One way they can do is reach out. I have a lot of connections. I've connected with a ton of Marines over the last 6 months. You and I kind of talked about that. That's what kind of kicked this off, right? Was like we learned the secret sauce in commenting and connecting with like-minded individuals. And like, dude, I'd ask them to do the same thing. Get active within a group of other military folks that, you know, it sounds goofy. Nobody wants to do that when they're coming out of the military. The last thing I wanted to do was talk about the military when I came out of the military. Hell, it took me years to wear Marine Corps garb. Like, I just was like, you know, it's just kind of one of those things. I think, honestly, they need to take it seriously. They're coming out of the Marine Corps, and a lot, no. They're like, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, and I'm going to do this thing, and get a plan, man. Get a plan in place. And I'm seeing some of these guys are doing some cool things. There's, you know, my job didn't allow for it. It might have allowed for a little bit of school. Like, you know, if I wanted to do some online classes, different jobs have different abilities to do things like, you know, in their own time, in their liberty time is what they call it, in their libo. So, you know, doing some schools, doing some classes, finding if you think tech is something that you want to do, I would tell them to really research it, get into it, and really understand like where they might be best suited, right? Like everybody wants this job or this job or this job. Really try to figure out what your skill sets are, where they lie, and what role that might look like. I'd be happy to talk to them about what that might look like, given, you know, some examples of their skill sets or whatever. But dude, I would say you got to research what you're going to get into before you get out, and try getting into it before you get out. There, like I said, there's a couple of guys I've talked to. They've had jobs freelance for a year or so while they're in the Marine Corps.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's a lot of things folks can do, but I would say the same thing we learned in the Marine Corps about preparedness and just being prepared for that, and whatever that hill is, we're to charge. Like, just make sure you got your ducks in a row. Line out of school or line out a boot camp or something like that. The one thing I'll say is, like, you can't ever teach work ethic. I'm going to say that again. You can enforce work ethic, and you can try to teach people to get there. But like, I cannot instantly tell you, just like I can't convince you of something that you don't believe right now, right? It's going to take time to get through that, to educate you and to get you to where you understand that. The same thing goes for this, right? Like, it's going to take time.
You just mentioned something I just want to call out. I think this is really, really awesome metaphor. That, you know, in the Marines, they teach you how to, you know, physically march up, conquer a hill. right? And you have to prepare for the physicality of that hill. There's also some mental, with a totally different type of mental preparedness. But in this case, it's all emotional, right? And it's like a mental hill they're climbing. There's not much physicality to it necessarily, right? I mean, a little bit maybe, but it's a hill. It's a different hill. Prepare for the hill. Prepare however you can to climb that next hill, because that next hill is probably going to be very emotionally challenging, especially right now in the tech industry where there's layoffs and it might take a while to find a job. So, that is emotionally taxing. And I know, Marines don't like to think about emotions and all that stuff, right? But, this is kind of something really interesting to think about, though, like climbing that emotional hill versus that physical hill.
Yeah, dude. That's pretty spot on. I mean, it is going from, then that is the biggest transition, mental. Your biggest transition coming out of the military is going to be mental. And so, the more you can do to prepare your mental, spiritual side of getting out, and your physical is going to be there. I mean, unless they just,
I imagine most Marines are pretty physical for the most part.
maybe they were cooked. They can take care of themselves. I don't know, I don't know. I'm not going to judge anybody, but dude, I think there's a lot to that. But it's the emotional intelligence that we didn't really gain in the Marine Corps. The emotional intelligence is really what I've had to learn for the last, however long it's been, 20 years, almost 20 years, and I'd say that's been the biggest uphill battle for me, was the emotional intelligence that it takes to have empathy, to teach and to grow, as opposed to command and demand. It's like, I want the best out of them, so they can get the best out of life. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you this.
Yeah, bro.
From your perspective, what are the best roles in tech, software, agency life, whatever, for veterans? I know veterans are not a monolith, obviously. Everybody's kind of unique in their way, but are there specific roles that we found where, if somebody is coming out of the military and thinking about getting into this industry, are there roles you think they should look at that they might be better suited for versus others?
Dude, for sure, man. This is actually something I think about, as I've been talking to some of these military folks, is I think it depends on what they did while they were in, what experiences they gained. Some folks learn in the office, some are in the field, they don't learn anything that's going to transition over. So I do think there's a little bit of that. But I do think that agency world, it sounds amazing. And you know what? I had a good time, but it was a long time. And it was a long time and a short time, dude. It just burns you out. So, hey, if you want to, I will say this, if you want to learn all the things, go to a small boutique agency and be there everything for 2 or 3 years. And maybe that's the way. Now, the stress of that, or dealing with people in that right out of the Corps, probably, I don't know if that, dude, product is where it's at for me. I really think that engineers and product designers or UXers, the way that we think and the processes we use and the systems we use and the team, the camaraderie that's a missing piece that we haven't really talked about. That's there's a huge piece of the Marine Corps. It's that mental thing, like I said, was really one of the biggest when you come out of the military. The other thing is the lack of camaraderie, I think, is probably the top two in my book. I mean, there's plenty of people that might say otherwise, but I would just say for me, it was that I missed that camaraderie. I didn't know it, right? When I got into some of the sports later on and things like that, that's where I really realized I was missing that, right? I was missing when I did other things, I was missing that camaraderie. And so, I would say that team environment within product for engineers and product designers and UXers, dude. Project management, yes, especially if they're not really technical people, but they're really good at managing people, right? We've learned a lot of really good skills about leading folks. Now, we may have to flip that and reverse it a little bit and make sure we're not raging out on folks, but it's one of those things. I think.
Down in New Orleans, we had I lived about 6 blocks from the Marine Corps support facilities, what they have sitting. I don't know how many people they had, but my kids went to school with some kids whose parents, both of them actually, were Marines, and they both worked at the facility. And one of them was in like supply chain stuff, but the kid's dad, he was actually cybersecurity. So he was, I mean, to me, that's the kind of stuff where it just makes logical sense. You get out of the military and you probably triple, quadruple your salary working as a, cybersecurity kind of expert somewhere at some tech company or for the government, even probably you could, stay as on the civilian side. But, there's certainly, like you mentioned, there's a different, depends on the role, obviously. I mean, I imagine somebody coming out of like the Space Force, right? Like they've got all kinds of like high tech stuff they're learning, and that would certainly translate, to maybe not even software, but something to like, civilian satellites or space, whatever they call that. I don't even know what you call it. But that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I mean, I know several people in the military, and some of them have been able to get like advanced degrees doing like Navy. I got a friend who's a commander in a naval sub. One's like a nuclear engineer, and so obviously these people, they might not have done it in the software, but the opportunities for those advanced degrees, like you said, prepare for climbing that hill. If you can, find something you're into, and with the military pays for it, shit, even after, if they're paying, like GI Bill paid for college or something, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of opportunities there. I love that you think about what you're doing now and will it apply? One of the things I meant to ask you before is these sort of transferable skills. I don't know, maybe you can speak to that. But like the transferable skills, there's a lot of like those transferable skills, soft skills that you mentioned, maybe not emotional intelligence, but there's probably a lot of other ones that I imagine you're learning all over the place, depending on your job, obviously. But, a cook peeling potatoes is probably going to learn something very different from somebody working at a nuclear sub or something, right?
For sure. I think the soft skills, and the thing is like, I feel like sometimes I scare employers off when I'm talking about former military folks coming in, like, it ain't like that, I promise, because it's the mentality of one of those soft skills that we were talking about was just like, you're never going to achieve perfection. We understand this, right? But in the Marine Corps, especially, the attention to detail, right? When you get dressed in the Marine Corps, you don't just get dressed. When you fold your underwear in the Marine Corps, you don't just fold your underwear, right? Like this, the real facts. They got a little template. You fold it in a perfect square. You have these inspections. If they're not in perfect square, they wad all your crap up. They throw it on the floor.
My God,
I'm part of it, right? ADHD kid.
This was me growing up, dude. Like, I know I said I never was in the military, but I'm nodding my head because I'm like, that was my dad. Like, it's like, I said I went to Catholic school, and your shirt's not quite, your belt is this, your shoes aren't shined or whatever, And it was the same kind of thing. My room was on place. Oh my God! Like he would inspect my room.
Did he make you align your? Did he make you align your belt buckle to the line there?
To the zipper, yeah. He would. I mean, he wouldn't like make me. He wouldn't make me. It wasn't like he would beat me if I did. But he's like, your belt's on. Like he would comment about it. You know what I mean?
You're a little off.
And I was in ROTC in high school, and they would actually inspect. It had to be aligned, but which helped me with ROTC out. But anyway, he would do that, and it was like folding clothes, everything. Oh my God, man, it was a trip. I'll say that.
So that attention to detail, dude, right? Like we talk about some of the biggest frustrations. I'll just call it out. My biggest frustration is attention to detail, because when we're building product, we've got design systems for a reason. There's reasons why we do the process. There's reasons why we go through all the things we do as a team to get this amazing, beautiful thing out. But like attention to detail could kill it all, right? Like it's like, so I will say like, that's something that's ingrained, even with some, like, here's the testament to this, bro. Even with somebody like me, who's a little, ADHD, right? I mean, attention to detail is not a thing I have a problem with my work. Now, attention to detail with my calendar, that's another thing. I'm working on it, right? Probably a lifelong journey. But attention to detail with my work, it's not bad. And the other military folks I've worked with, for the most part, they're going to, everybody's different. But attention to detail is one of those soft skills that I think is super invaluable within the product space. The camaraderie and being part of a team is another, right? Like you're there as part of the team. And even though it was hard for me to learn some of the soft skills, right? And maybe I was a little bit too abrasive in the beginning, and maybe I can be a little too abrasive now. I've earned that trust with my team, And now I have the ability to like use some of these soft skills and some of the things that I have learned. I don't think you can beat military attention to detail.
Well, there you go, man. I would agree with that. Just growing up with my dad, I know that that's the case for sure. All right, cool, man. So that's pretty much everything I want to talk. Anything you think worth talking about that we didn't get a chance to talk about today? You want to add anything else? Anything we're missing?
No, man. Not unless you got something.
You know, this isn't really like, I'll look at that and ask you, this isn't really the target audience for this podcast. It's generally a lot of junior UX designers. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, it's about, we talk a lot about career transitioners and things like that. But I am curious, like, if anybody out there is listening, happens to be a hiring manager, which they might not be listening to this, but sell us like the elevator pitch for hiring vets. Why would we want to hire vets? And why would a vet make a good option for somebody if they're thinking about hiring somebody?
I'll put it this way. I've hired kids, and Matt Johnson has hired literally kids off the street. You can't teach work ethic. I said that. You can't really teach passion either. And that passion creates drive, right? And so that's a huge piece of the recipe. That drive, I think is an important aspect that is learned in the military. The attention to detail that I said, in most cases, you're not going to find that attention to detail. You're going to get a team player in most cases, you're going to get a team player that understands the value of working as a team, as opposed to as an individual out of the gate. And I would just say, like, back to what I said, like, I've hired people off the street. Like, if I'm going to hire people off the street, wouldn't I give somebody that risked their life for our country a shot? What I do know is the tech skills aren't necessarily the things lacking right now, dude. It is, to me, in my opinion, the soft skills, right? How do I converse in a meeting? How do I communicate the issues I see in this design in a healthy way? How do I do this, right? A lot of those things out of the gate that are the issues with young designers aren't necessarily the same issues when you have, again, you could talk about somebody coming from the military. They're going to be a non-traditional type student even because they've had 4 years of life. Not only do they have 4 years of life, they grew up real fast because they were in the military. So I think there's a huge difference between, and I'm not discrediting anybody that's coming out of school. Look, here's the deal. Work your tails off, grind it out for the first couple of years, right? Stay humble. Like, don't get this huge ego about anything that you're doing right now, because nothing you know right now is going to be the thing that catapults your career in your first couple of years, unless you're just a freaking savant. And in that case, good for you. Like, I would say a lot of those reasons is what I'd say to any recruiter looking at that. And I'd say primarily it's the last point I made, which is just like, you can get somebody that is younger and out of school, and they're probably going to do a good job, but there's probably going to be a lot more of the same issues within the soft skill realm as that you continue to have. You give somebody that was former military and has gone through some of the training and is going to do these jobs, you're going to get something a little bit different.
You got some time to stick around for a little bit? We've got some questions I want to ask to just help all of our listeners get to know you a little bit better. You want to be ready to do this?
Yeah, man.
All right. First one up. What's your favorite non-design book?
Oh, gosh. Non-design book. Leaders Eat Last.
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't read it, but I've heard it's on my list. It's been on my list for a while. I've never actually read it, but I have heard really great things about it. All right. What's your favorite non-design podcast? Obviously, your favorite podcast that's not Beyond UX Design.
Oh, man, I should have admit this. Sorry, Joe. I said it that way. Joe Rogan's podcast. I love it, man.
He's got some awesome, he's got some really interesting guests. Like, I don't agree with everything he says, but I love how he interviews people. I love the conversation with him. Yeah.
Again, I don't agree with everything he says. I just love that. I love the format. He's a little, he's a little off kilter too. I love it. He's an MMA guy, so I don't know.
I know. That's all right. No wrong answers here, man. All right. What's your favorite meal? And this could be a meal you've cooked, a meal your grandma cooked. It could be a meal you ate at a restaurant. Favorite one?
Oh, man, dude. Oh, that's a good one.
Probably not an MRE. That's the guess.
Okay. The best. Man, I'm just going to give, we'll do a hometown dish. There's truffle mac and cheese at Wilder's right down the road that you can't get anywhere in this world. I don't think. I mean, who knows? Maybe they would just warm that crap up to the back, but it's pretty good. So
Truffle
I'll go
mac
with
and
that.
cheese. That sounds
Wilder's
good, man.
truffle mac and cheese.
Oh man, there's a place out here by us, so it's a mac and cheese bar, and you
Okay.
can like, well, before the COVID, they had like all the toppings. After COVID, you got to tell them what you want on it. But they give you the mac and cheese, and you load it up with all the stuff, man. Just like they got pulled pork, they have chicken, they got with onions, mushrooms, whatever, dude. Just all
Hey.
like on sauces and stuff. The stuff. I'm with you, man. Mac and cheese. I can eat mac and cheese. Mac and
Love
cheese
it.
and pizza. I can eat those two things every day.
I need to go to one of those.
Really, man. You should open one. Sounds like an opportunity. You guys don't have one. That's on you.
Ooh, come out and see it. Eat some mac and cheese.
What's your favorite vacation spot?
Dude, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but the older I get, I don't care where it's at, as long as I got my littles with me and my wife. Like,
I love it. That's
just
a
hit
great
the
answer.
road and go. Now, we do like outdoors, so I'll say rock climbing with the family.
Yeah. I messaged you the other day. You mentioned you were going out on a hike. Are y'all close to is Missouri like where you're at? You guys got a lot of outdoor stuff, or is it like flat? Or I'm not really familiar with the topography.
It's pretty flat. It's pretty flat, especially when you get into Kansas. We have I don't know what they're called, foothills or whatever they're called here. So it is a little bit, but you get it, Arkansas is an hour south. And so there's a ton of bike trails and trail systems, and Walmart headquarters is there. So the infrastructure there has just been built up like crazy over the last 15 years. And there is so much to do outside. So.
Yeah, I love you mentioned all six. You sure all six? If you pick like two of them, you just pick two of them. As long as I got my favorite two.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I can't climb with all six, though, unfortunately. So, like,
all right, next question. Which one's your favorite kid? No, I'm kidding. That's not a real question. All right.
Next. You want to beat up, man.
Yeah, they could take you too, man. You're outnumbered by quite a bit.
I got two boys that are much bigger than me. Hey, but they know they can't take me. They're much bigger than me, but come on, I got the dad strength, bro. They can't do that.
How old are your kids? Oh, what's the range? What do you got? What's the range?
Yeah, it's from 11. So we've got 11, 14, 20, 21, no, 20, 22, 20.
Are you looking up something right now? Do you look it up? The next question was going to be, how do you remember all of those?
Kids, I love you. I love you so much. Daddy's not good with numbers. You know this.
I hope I'm not getting you in trouble. Well, you know what? If you want me to edit this out, I don't want you to get beat up when you get home. I don't want anybody. I don't want you to get the look.
Keep it in there, bro. Keep it in there.
I don't know how you do it. 6 kids, man. I told my wife, too. I just, man, too. I could, if I would have had my second kid first, I wouldn't have had 2 kids at the problem. Should have.
Well, to be fair, it's blended family. But we'll get into, it's all, But they've been mine forever.
Yeah, that's all good, man. It doesn't matter. All right, what's your favorite design tool that is not Figma?
Oh, gosh. Man, the design I tell my guys all the time, like, seeing them work in Figma anymore, I'm just like, I learned Figma when dude, it's so, I can't even keep up, dude. So I will have to go some outside of Figma. Why don't I go to Corel Draw?
Getting it old school, baby. Those people listening, Corel, what? Who's Corel?
Yeah. No, you know what I really love? I've been geeking out on the old iPad lately with the, it's not the one everybody uses. It's the Adobe Fresco, because you can make logos like you can draw in vector.
Oh, wow.
Pretty
That's
cool.
really cool. I don't ever see that.
Yeah.
That's an iPad? Yeah, I got to get myself one of those iPads with the pen, man. It's the iPad Pro.
Dude.
I look at that, I'm like, oh, holy crap, that is so cool. I've never been able to sketch.
It's so fun. That Adobe Fresco, you can literally draw. It's crazy, though, to draw in vector. So, like, you're drawing your logos in vector, and, like, it's crazy. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
You mentioned earlier that you grew up with charcoal and watercolor and all that stuff. I never did any of this stuff. I didn't even think about becoming a designer until I was in my 20s. So I can't draw to save my life, man, which is partly why I don't have it's like, what am I spending all this money on? I'm not giving you the waste of money.
No,
but,
whatever,
I can't, maybe I'd use it for like Scribble.io or Pictionary Online or stuff.
Hey, you know what? That's a great point. It's because of your viewers, man. Like, they have to know. You made a great point right there. Like, you are somebody without the natural artistic gift to draw and do whatever, right? I think there's a misnomer. There's a belief that, like, especially within UI, you have to be what I would just consider, we call them the creatives and the productions like whatever, right? Production people and creative people. In this company, nobody is more important. We all have our own role. Everybody wants to be like the uber creative person, but dude, like I did too, but I wasn't the most creative person out there, right? Just wasn't. So all of these roles are so important to product that like it doesn't matter. Like in the day agency world, bro, like you remember, it's like if you were the uber creative, like, I mean, that's how you kind of came up the ranks. Like if you had the most creative ideas and you were the most creative in product, do a really good job, always focus on the goals, have user-centric design, ensure you test, rinse, repeat, easy, let's go, right? That means everybody that can stick to process and can do the creative thinking piece can do what we do, you know? It's that creative thinking piece. I tell people today, it's 80% UX, 20% design. When you really, really think about that overall picture of getting a successful product, let's front load that planning. Well, that means most of the work is done by creative thinkers, not necessarily creative doers. So I just want to make that point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I tell people too that we do all the time, like UI design, visual design. Some people have it naturally, but others don't.
Right.
But that's all right. It's still a skill. You can get better at it over time. I can tell you right now, the designs I make today,
1,000.
way better than the ones I did 20 years ago.
That's right.
So, you know, it's everybody gets better at it. It's just a matter of
That's
practice.
right.
It's a matter of having really great, you know, examples of really great work and copy it for a little while. And then, you know, copy it till you understand the rules and then break it. But yeah, it's something everybody can do. I mean, if you're listening out there and you're in the military, you feel like, I'm not creative. I think again, because I think you definitely can learn it. So, all right. I think that's it. However, that's a great way to end this. I think we're done. We've been talking for a little bit. I know you got to run in a little bit and got a lunch. I don't want to make you late.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Before we get out of here, you want to give a shout out to Midwestern? You want to give where can we find you and all that jazz? Give yourself a shout out.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to, man. Thank you, dude. I'd love to. BuildMidwestern.com. We just lost our new site, so don't judge us. You know, is there grammar errors on there? I'm not the spell checker, okay? No, we just launched a new site, dude. We had an amazing year this last year. It's all around relationships. The reason for our growth is relationships, dude. It's the only reason. We do good work. We do amazing work, right? But work's just half of it when you're talking about embedded roles. You have to work with the people too, right? Like you have to show up and be present. And so I just say, man, I'm excited about what we're doing. This year's going to be crazy. We've got an amazing team of engineers, product designers, and support roles, everything from motion to illustration. And we've embedded with some of the biggest companies we never thought we'd be able to work for over the last couple of years. And honestly, I think testament's relationships. So again, if you're listening out there, build those relationships. They are the most valuable thing that you could have as a young designer. For sure. And that's what we're doing here, man. Build relationships and see where this baby goes.
Well, yeah, I love it. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. You're all doing good things, and I appreciate all your insight today, man. That was awesome. Well, all right, y'all. I think that's it for Andrew and I for today. I hope we help everybody out there that's thinking about transitioning from the military or anything related to something like that into the software creative industry, whatever you want to call this thing. I hope we help shed some light on that. I'm curious, anybody that's out there that transitioned from the military into the software creative industry, what challenges did you run into? I'd love to know. I'm sure Andrew would too. Find us on LinkedIn. Let us know. Or shoot me an email at hello@beyonduxdesign.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would love it if you left a 5-star review. Not just 5 stars. I'm talking about a couple sentences. Apple loves that stuff, and so do I. If you know somebody who might find any of this stuff useful, why don't you tell them about it? That'll be fantastic. If we're going to help keep the show independent and ad-free, check out those Patreon sponsor packages at beyonduxdesign.com/support. You can join Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, and Megan by supporting the show for as little as $3 a month. And there's some sweet perks like that badass holographic Beyond UX Design sticker. You can get a shout out on the show every week. There's even a package to meet with me for 30 minutes every month. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and check out all the past episodes at beyonduxdesign.com. I hope you keep coming back for more great UX tips from Beyond UX Design. And until next time, remember, you're more than a designer because the more you actually design, it's around. Take care, y'all.